had a strong commitment to development in our academy program, and not only felt as passionately as we did about that, but understood the priority it would have to play for this team. And finally, somebody that played the game, knows the game, and can help analyze the right kind of DPs we should be going after. We had a few people on our list, but we were pretty specific that we think the league is changing. We think that if you look at the NBA, they're a good example for us to follow, where analytical skills, the ability to understand a cap and manage a cap, and as someone called them, a wonk, is a high priority for us going forward. We want to be in a position where we do a better job of analyzation than any club in the league. And so we looked out, and what we began to understand is we had a pretty unique situation with Tim. He is the central controller, and he is at the heart of the contracts for all of the players in this league. He understands not only the players, their contracts, the cap position of every team in the league, but he deals with every general manager in this league on a daily basis. So his understanding of contracts and the cap and his relationship with GMs and the teams is second to none. He did a tremendous job in the last 3 weeks giving us a fair assessment and an evaluation of our team. We were impressed by his analytical style and his detailed view of our problems. And in particular, I would
Toronto. Ever since 2007, I've always looked at it as a place where I would like to be if I would ever be a GM. And then it's a place with a great city, it's a place with a great club, and it's a place with a great team. In terms of the city, it's obviously one of the great cities in North America and the world. With the club, I came up here and I had a chance to experience the MLSE Expo, and I certainly share their vision that they have here at MLSE, which is winning championships. It's something we haven't done in the past here. And now it's not about promises now. It's about planning, action, and results. It's about getting the job done. And that's what I'm here to do. It's also about the team. I think in the past there hasn't been a culture and identity that everyone can really understand and resonate with. And what you see in MLS today is successful teams have that identity, that style of play that everyone knows and loves. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to start off first by understanding who we are, and then who we want to be down the road. And I'll work with Ryan in that sense to make sure that the player personnel match the identity with that vision and identity. The next thing is why I'm here and what I think I can do for the team. When you think about my experience at the league office, the primary responsibility for me was managing. For me, it was 6 of the club's budgets and rosters, as well as some of the other teams. But through that, I learned, the ways to get the most out of your budget. I saw teams make mistakes. I saw teams do the right things. And I think in my experience, one of the key things is making sure that you have proper cap management and that you don't have inefficiencies on your budget. And that's one of the things I'm going to make sure we do have at Toronto. The next thing is when I've been at the league office, I've forged strong relationships with most or all of the GMs. I'm fortunate to call many of them my friends, and I think that in this league, it's critical that you know what's going on around the league. You know about potential trades. You know about teams that are against the cap. You know about who the next opponent is for teams, and all these GMs and coaches are talking. And you got to make sure that you're in that, what I call the web of knowledge. You got to make sure that you know what's going on in the league, and that's something that I can bring to this club. The next thing is just the organization at the club. I've met with Ryan, and I know Ryan, and we're going to work collaboratively. We're going to every day have meetings and make sure that we're on the same page, because that, again, is one of the successful traits of a successful MLS franchise. And then lastly, our strike rate, player signings. We got to get them right. Designated players, got to get them right. They got to produce on the field and reflect their budget number on our roster. And with those three things, I think that we can turn this ship around and turn this into a winning franchise. So thank you.
You want to add anything, Coach?
No, I think Tim said it all, to tell you the truth. I met Tim for the first time probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I just so impressed with his enthusiasm and obviously his knowledge of the of kind of the MLS and what it takes, and being kind of in the epicenter of the MLS is obviously has extreme value. So coupled with his obvious enthusiasm, it's extremely exciting time. So as I said, I think he's covered it all, and really looking forward to getting to work.
We'll open it up to questions.
Tim, Neil Davidson, the Canadian Press. Welcome to Toronto. Is your role as general manager going to be a traditional role? Mr. Leiweke has talked about how he wanted somebody to manage the salary cap and to know the league. Will you be a traditional GM in terms of having final say in player personnel, obviously in conjunction with a coach? Will that be also in your domain?
Yes, I think so. The key word I think you said was in conjunction with the head coach and with Tim. I think we're going to work collaboratively. But, the role of the GM is to make sure that you have players not only that can succeed on the field in the short term, but also you're planning for the long term. And so that's a particular characteristics that you need in a GM. So to answer the question, yes.
Mr. Leiweke, how did you first become aware of Mr. Bezbatchenko?
I've been with the league for almost 20 years now, and Don Garber and I in particular are not only partners and friends, but we see the world the same way on the growth of this league, and he and I have spent a lot of time in the last 2 months talking about Toronto and our problems and how we solve them. And in the course of that conversation, I think philosophically, Don and I talked a lot about the changing tide here. In all of sports, the hardest cap is Major League Soccer because we're a single entity. We're above the cap. You can only spend what you could spend, and the league controls it because they enter into the contracts. And as we looked at our history and we kind of opened the wounds here and began to say, what have we done wrong, and why have we not been able to make sense of this here? One of the things that was very clear is we're always struggling with the cap here. We always were getting out traded. We were always in trouble with our cap. We were always trying to get rid of bad contracts from day one, from the day you got here. This has always been an issue here. We've never done a great job of analyzation. We were always about flash and not about work. So Don told me about his team. He has a very good team there. There were 3 of them that were brought up to my attention. I picked the youngest one, not because of his age, but because I think out of all of them, I was most impressed by Tim's experience as a player, collegiately and professionally, as a lawyer and that detailed mind on how to strategically look at the boxes and fill them in long term. Certainly on his ability to understand every contract in the league and manage our cap. And finally, he really understands and is passionate about development. So, again, we talked to a lot of people, but I think Tim came to my attention because I think the league is doing an extremely good job of breeding the next leaders. And I think this is the beginning of what we will see as a constant pattern of other clubs hiring GMs from the league because of their expertise on the cap and their expertise on how to manage a roster and how to fill in the boxes.
Gentlemen, can you tell me about your plans for maybe overseas trips or any DPs, players that can be brought over and help, if not immediately, then in the near future?
Well, I'll start it and then turn it over to these two guys. I think Ryan and I have spent a lot of time talking about what we need. And then Tim joined those conversations 2 weeks ago and began to define for us what he thought we needed. They were the same view. And we have been working now on getting specific on that list and beginning to have conversations with clubs, agents, and players. We have a target that will probably be about a half dozen players, and we're headed to Europe in a few weeks. So it was important to get Tim on board so that we could get that trip locked up. And I expect that by the end of October, we will be down the road with the needs that we have as a club and using the DP slots, too, that we have available to fill those needs.
Yeah, I think over the next few weeks, obviously, I need to spend more time getting to know the club and the players and Tim and Ryan. But over the past 2 weeks, we've obviously identified a number of candidates to sign as DPs. But also the needs of the club, obviously, it's no secret that we've had trouble scoring goals. You need to score goals to win games. So we're going to find designated players with high strike rate. When it comes to analytics, they shoot the ball a lot. They get the ball in the box, create opportunities for themselves, put the ball on target, and then go from there. So that's our plan over the next couple weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty obvious that, again, this season we've probably been short in that area. It's an area that has been proven that wins you not only games but leagues, and so yeah, we're narrowing down a target list. We know who they are, and we're motivated to go get them. Quite a few mountains to climb first to get to that, because good players, it's not that easy, but trust me on this, we'll be working very hard to try and get them.
Mr. Leiweke, you've got your GM now, you've got your coach, you've got a state-of-the-art training center, you've got a loyal fan base, you've got a list of players you want, and apparently the money to sign them. Are the dark days over for this franchise now?
Ask me that question in January. We've been pretty outspoken at telling all of our sponsors and partners and season ticket holders and the fan clubs, all 92 of them, that we have work to do here. And so we met with another group of fans last night, and again, we wouldn't make any commitments to them and said, we'll come see you again in January. I think in January, we're committed to turning the page once and for all, but we have work to do until we get to January. We have some trades to do within the league. We have some DPs to sign outside the league. We have some work to do in our development system. Tim has a staff he has to fill in. So we have hard work left between now and January. I do not think the dark days are over yet, but I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we control our own destiny, and now we have to do the heavy lifting to get there by January so we can look everyone in the eye and tell them this is a different era here in this organization. It's not about flash. It's not about spin. It's about hard work, tough decisions, spending some money, and making the right decisions. And I think we'll know that in January.
Michael Grange from Sportsnet. In your experience, what's a reasonable window or horizon to turn an MLS team around?
That's a good question. What I would say, looking at the history of the league, it was easier to do in the early stages of the league because of the levers based on the competition guidelines that sort of knock a team down that's on the top and bring up a team from the bottom. What you've seen over the last few years, though, is the teams that are doing things well are able to overcome those sort of parity levers. RSL, Seattle, LA, they found ways to overcome those challenges. So the teams at the bottom, I mean, it's going to take more than just relying on the first round draft pick or what other of the other levers that we have. So it's going to take some time, but at the same time, we do have the ability to go out and now sign designated players. With that rule a few years ago, it really allows you to create a team in your own vision, in your own image. And I think that will allow us to go and hopefully turn the ship around quickly. It would be difficult to do it in 1 year, but our goal would be to have a nice sort of upward trend over the next few years.
Mr. Bezbatchenko, does the dynamic of your relationship with the other general managers in the league now change now that you're no longer representing the league office, but you're actually representing one of the clubs they're in competition with?
Yes, it changes now. Typically, I'm on the phone with them pretty much every day, multiple times a day, and now I'm competing with them, so it certainly changes. But, I already received a number of nice messages and congratulations from many of the GMs. So, yes, it certainly changes.
Does the flow of information that maybe you're accustomed to from these people now become more of an obstacle?
Not obstacle, but I think I'll be looking for different information. So the information before was really to help them. I was giving them information. Now I'm really trying to gather it and collect it. So I think it's just different, not necessarily an obstacle. Yeah, I think the thing that would make it more difficult, if I get your question correctly, is just the culture and the mentality of the team after having not had a successful playoff run in ever. So I think yes, I think it would be more challenging in that sense. But I think with the team we have here, I think we can do it. I think everyone is passionate. I think we have winners, and I think we will do the hard work that it takes to turn a team around.
Gareth Wheeler, TSN. The soccer world's one where experience and feel for the game is absolutely valued on a lot of different levels. And I'm just wondering, going in this completely different direction with this organization, Tim, do you feel a level of pressure, any apprehension in going with a relatively unknown, another rookie general manager, in this situation after what's transpired here in recent years?
I guess the best way to answer that is a couple of days ago, Ryan came down and him and I had another visit on letting him know that we were going to bring Tim on board, and we were talking about DPs. And I had the exact same conversation with him that I had with him a couple of days earlier, which is, to be honest with you, this is not that difficult. There's 11 slots, and you need a couple of players per slot. And this is about filling in the boxes. And that means it's not all about flash or statements or going out there and spinning it. You got to do some heavy lifting. And in this league, it's pretty simple. And I think Tim said it. We have to draft well. We have to develop through the academy well. We have to trade well. And we have to choose good DPs. That's how you fill your boxes out. And one thing that Ryan pointed out, and I think he's right, is it's not like we're 22 boxes away. We're 4 or 5 boxes away. A couple of those are DPs. And as Tim said, we cannot make mistakes on those decisions because they'll bury us forever. But philosophically, we all agree this is not going to be the most difficult thing we've ever done in our lives. That this is trying to stay the course, do the heavy lifting, do the analytical work that we need to do, get everybody on the same page, change the culture, and then do the heavy lifting. Getting on a plane and going over to Europe and meeting with these guys and looking them in the eye and convincing them to come to Toronto and making them convince us it's not a paycheck, that they want to be more like a David Beckham and change the culture and accept the responsibility. I feel no pressure because I know we can do this. I absolutely see the path. And I think what we did today is we filled in the one need and the one piece of this puzzle we've never really filled in, which is a guy that's willing to sit down on a piece of paper and craft a business plan and be very analytical about how he sees us filling in those boxes and then sticking to it every day. And as I said, he may not be the sexiest guy in the world and how he's going to do that, but the one thing I'm convinced of, I'm not saying you're not sexy, okay?
I have a skinny tie on.
Yeah, I know. You look good today. But I think what we all agree and what Ryan agrees on is this is, if you're prepared to do the heavy lifting, we can get to the right place here. And so you don't feel pressure when you see the path and you know that we control all of the solutions. It's nice to have owners that have given us the kind of money that we have to go get DPs. That's never been the issue here. Believe me, in the 19 other clubs, that would have been an issue for most other clubs. Not here. We control our own destiny here. And I think we just filled in the one slot that is going to be the key slot on sticking to a course and a business plan that we got to stick to once and for all in order to change our fortune here. So I don't feel pressure. The only pressure I feel is if he would have said 5 years on the question, I would have wonked him over the head.
You need a big calculator. It's not just the three people sitting up here. It's a full team. You know, we got to hire a full scouting team. You got to use qualitative and quantitative data. You got to use the traditional scouting approach where you got to go and sit down and watch a match. You can't get a feel for the player unless you're there watching a match. So it's going to be a combination of analytics, the traditional scouting, networks on the ground of MLS consultants as well as agents. It's the whole network that you need in order to be successful with your player signings.
Which Tim? Oh, sorry. They shouldn't. So we'll see him in January. And that's what we told them. Well, we're not asking for their money now because we have work to do. By January, if we're good and we do our job right, we're going to fill in a couple of the boxes, if not all 4 or 5 of the boxes. And until we do that, I'm not asking for their trust or their money. I'm asking them just to give us patience until then, and then let's have that debate.
Okay, and I think we'll conclude the formal part of the press conference. We're going to have a photo op now, and then I think we'll have Tim Lewicki here for a scrum first, and then we'll Bez for a second scrum. Thanks.
All right, there you heard it. Tim Bezbatchenko has been hired as the general manager of Toronto FC, a 31-year-old coming from the league offices, a relative rookie in this sense. And certainly, if you've seen the movie Moneyball, I think this is the direction that they're going in, a very analytical person and knows the numbers and dealt with all of the stats and all of the contracts with the league as a single entity concept in the league. So Tim Lewicki obviously thinks that this is his man to turn it around, and you heard him say there that they're not asking for trust, they're not asking for money, they're asking for a little bit of patience to try to turn this around, and that he thinks that Bezbatchenko is the right person to do this, and to come January that a lot of changes will be made with the club and able to turn this around and try to get Toronto FC to MLS Cup playoffs for the first time in club history. We'll be talking to both Tims momentarily here, live on Gold TV Canada and TorontoFC.ca. And right now we're gonna bring in Adrian Serio. And Adrian, talk a little about your thoughts on this decision today.
It's tough. It's tough. You're looking at someone with a young age, but at the same time brings in a lot of experience as well too, working with the league, knowing, like he said, different GMs, and having that knowledge on what it takes financially to see this team succeed, and I quite like that. We've seen them spend a lot of money in the wrong places, and to have somebody who could start to nitpick at the dollars in players that are brought in, and you don't want to see players brought in that just want to earn a paycheck. You want to build a nucleus of players that obviously can play with each other, and it's good. We'll see. Like they said, we don't have to trust them now, But in January, that will be the tall tale where you'll start to see the moves that are being made and if they're moving in the right direction.
All right, thanks, Adrian. We are going to bring in Tim Bezbatchenko. Tim, welcome to Toronto, first of all, and talk about the challenge that is ahead of you.
Well, I think the main challenge is turning around a club that hasn't made the playoffs in its history. So I think first and foremost, it's about creating a winning culture and identity, getting to know the players, the guys in the locker room who we're going to go to war with, battle with every day, and then it's really just getting down to work and working hard and making sure that we don't leave anything sort of uncovered when it comes to player signings.
I've covered this club from day one, so I feel the frustration of not only the fans but everybody else involved. When Tim asked you to have an assessment before he hired you on this club, where did you see it, and then how bad was it? You're the one that dealt with a lot of contracts within the league, so you would know just where this club sat.
It wasn't just one thing over the course of the last few years. It was really with each regime or with each change came a different challenge. And even from the league office, we want our teams to do well. And so especially in Toronto, I think we all felt it there. And one of the things I think that I could at least say here would be some budget inefficiencies. I think that if you get a player in and he has a guaranteed contract and then he ends up leaving and you're carrying that budget forward, that means that you have less money to spend on other players. So that's just a very simple solution to making sure your cap management is done well.
Is it a fairly defined process to be able to make a club successful when you do look at the LAs, the Houston Dynamo, who have been competitive for years, Seattle since they came into the league, and even Kansas City now is a very tough club. They've got a core of players they've had for a number of years, and you see the results.
Mm-hmm. No, there's not one way. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say,
mm-hmm.
and if you look at LA, Kansas City, RSL, Seattle, they've all done it in a slightly different way.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some traits that are common amongst all them, and I think one of them is they're not inefficient with their budget. But no, they're all unique, and I think we need to find our own way.
And you said it's tough to answer on how long it would take to turn this around. Maybe I'll just ask you in a different way. When you are saddled with some of the issues that Toronto FC has had to turn around or turn over, I guess, players, that is a process that will take a while because you are still dealing with contracts that exist
Mm-hmm.
today.
Well, I think as Tim said, I think Kevin did a good job when he was here in sort of sorting out some of the budget issues. But it could take some time. But I think there are opportunities under our competition guidelines where you can make changes quickly and efficiently, and you can have success. One of them, like I said, is the designated player rule. There's a couple other rules that allow a team to make changes quickly that will be taken advantage of.
Are you and Ryan Nelson relatively on the same page? Because you talked about Tim saying he is our guy for next year, but now you've come in as a general manager, and it is a different scenario where you don't have that, or you probably do have the option whether or not you want to keep him. But talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, Nelly and I are on the same page, and it's critical that we are. I think we've already everything that we spoke about to date has been consistent with the vision of MLSE and of Tim and Toronto FC. So I think it's absolutely imperative that we are, just sort of singing from the same hymn sheet.
All right, thank you very much, Tim. Welcome to Toronto, and good luck turning it around. Thank you very much. All right, Tim Bezbatchenko, the new general manager of Toronto FC, named today. We will have Mr. Tim Leiweke momentarily, the president and CEO of Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, to talk a little bit more about the decision. Adrian, I'll bring you back in here for a second as we wait for Mr. Leiweke. And certainly there is a defined direction, I think, is what you can get from this decision and where they want to go. Where in so many past years, the amount of change, the different coaches, that there was no identity at all with this club.
Yeah, I wish it would be a little more informative. There hasn't been an identity. You look at the style of play that you've seen over years, and you really don't know what you're going to get day in and day out. So it seems like they're on the same page. They're moving in the right direction. They're all on the same wavelength, but then again, it comes down to the personnel as far as players are concerned that you pick up, and if they fit into what you're trying to form here in Toronto. Are you going to be that long ball team? Or are you going to be the possession type team? It's still yet to see. That's why it's kind of tough for me to say, in January, then people will start to understand what's being done. I'm going to wait until the season starts, until game one. That's where I'm really going to give my opinion on if they've made the right moves in picking up certain players.
And it is no surprise probably when Tim, was going through the hiring process that Tim Bezbatchenko saw some issues. I think anybody that's been around this team has seen that because of what people call the revolving door of players that have come in and out of Toronto FC. It's just too many people that have come through here to be able to create a winning team.
Yeah, it's been a massive list and a scary one, if that. And you look at players, and there's been, I guess, not necessarily a stereotype, but it's been known that if you want your career to come to an end, come to Toronto. That's what's been known, because you're never really sure if you're going to be here the following year with how things have been changing so quickly. So right now, hopefully they stick with, whether it's the player or Tim, the new GM. They said that they have a nucleus of players that they're just going to pick up, 5, 6 more players, boxes they call them. And if those are the right pickups, then we could see. Hopefully it's not one DP that they go after where they think he's going to solve all issues. Me being an ex-player, I know that one guy really can't control the game. You need a core. So hopefully they keep some of the youngsters that they have here and just grow upon them and get to where this club needs to be, and that's in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, because exactly, when you talk about a striker, if he's not getting that service and getting the balls that he needs to take the shots, to score the goals, so there is, you got to be, there is no I in the team.
Right, almost definitely, and you said it spot on. They have to make sure that there's quality players in the midfield or defense to get those balls up to their forwards that they're talking about picking up. The DP, it's very true. You don't win games unless you score goals, but at the same time, the delivery has to be, I guess, of some sort of quality for those attackers to put those ones away.
We have seen the improvement in this club this year, despite the record, though, at least being competitive, shoring things up defensively, that they have been in games with some of the top teams in the league. Los Angeles Galaxy here at BMO Field, that should have been a win for Toronto FC, a late goal. Houston Dynamo, again, and even New York last week to a certain extent, who's the top of the East. Toronto FC played with them.
They have, and we can, I guess, identify with that because we watch the games, mm-hmm. and we can say, okay, this was maybe an opportunity where they could have put this one away, but for the regular Joe who doesn't watch the games or TFC games, you're going to look at the stats and just see you're losing, and for that, you have to change. You have to start putting wins in those columns, and then you'll start to turn a couple of heads. People aren't going to really say, oh, you almost had this one or you almost won this game. They don't care. They want to see wins, and they want to see this team productive, and putting balls in the back of the net is one of the ways that they're going to have to start getting those W's.
All right, Tim Bezbatchenko named the general manager of Toronto FC. We will be back right here on Goal TV Canada with CEO Tim Leiweke of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment.
This portion of